Great. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to group somatic yoga and movement exploration. So today I want to offer a sequence that's been slowly building from bits and pieces I've been putting together using a lot of tactile sensation. So you'll want some kind of head or neck cushion or support, because I want to try to add in a sideline sequence. So you might want that at some point. And as is always the norm, when we're doing any kind of somatic work, I would encourage you to seek ease in everything that we're doing in terms of movements, to never strain to achieve anything. Remember that all movements are not appropriate for everybody. And if at any point my suggestions either don't seem clear, don't feel right, or you intuit they aren't working for you, you can simply visualize the suggested movement in your mind and or wait to follow me with something that feels better for you. Or when it seems clear, makes more sense to you, then you can just add those movements in later. There may also be movements today that I might ask you to do that don't feel natural for you and will feel better later once you've gotten a better understanding of what was intended. And you should give yourself permission to be in beginner's mind about everything we attempt. So lastly, I would say for this class in particular, although it's generally always true with me, movement is a cousin to touch. And so touch is a sibling of connection, and therefore self-touch is a powerful means to remember how to contract and release from contractions, which is, as we know at this point, called a pandiculation, just the technical term for that. So we're going to integrate some aspects of both yoga and somatics into the movement today. And we'll start with some digital finger work. So I'm going to do a fair amount more demonstration work than I normally do, because I think that might be helpful. I've been slowly adding in more of that in this work. So just to make sure that you can see me, I'm going to stand up. And the way this works is you can use both hands at the same time, or if you want to only do one hand, you can do one hand. And I'll show it both from a side view, a coronal view of my hand, as well as a front view. So front view first, we're going to bend the first knuckle of each of the digits over like this. And then to the best of our ability, you're noticing it's a little difficult for me to keep the other fingers straight, right? So this is what it looks like to the side, especially as I try to extend my ring finger of that hand. And the pinky finger, the first digit bends and touches the fleshy first pad of the hand, right? To the best of your ability, at least. So if you need your other hand to help you gently, right? Mind you, gently draw the first knuckle to a bent position and then hold it there for a moment. And notice that contraction. I'll do it with the other hand too. So now you can see it in both of my hands. It's really hard for some reason in my dominant hand right at this moment, but oh well. And then slowly release your pinky fingers. And we can just move right across to all of the other fingers one at a time. So now bend your ring finger and try to get it to touch the pad of your hand. Again, you might only do one hand at a time. Extend the other fingers of the hands to the best of your ability, at least. It's not as easy as it seems. Then release that. And then try your middle finger, one hand or both, And then finally, perhaps the easiest digit is the index finger digit. Then the first knuckle, extend the others. And then release that. And then the thumb is a special jointed digit. So this one we can't necessarily bend. Well, we could bend at the first digit and touch the center of the palm, but we add the other fingers into this one. And it's a gesture you already know in yoga. So take the other 4 fingers, fold them over, and then just apply just a mild, doesn't have to be firm, just a mild bit of pressure. Not enough to give yourself a cramp, hopefully. And then release all your fingers. Shake your hands out for a moment. So when you get really proficient doing this, one of the reasons it's useful to do this, obviously, is it'll give you better capacity to manipulate things with your fingers, warms the hands up, and the skin, as we're going to work with today with self-touch, and the palms of your hands are really great to activate so that you can feel contractions underneath the skin, right? So if you try one hand at a time and do this, you'll notice with your other hand over the forearm, either the inner forearm or the back of the forearm. We'll work with some of that work next. You'll notice that the skin changes its shape underneath the palm that you've got resting there, right? As the muscles and tendons and ligaments shift around what you're doing with your fingers, there are internal changes going on that you can feel at the surface level of the skin. So it's one of the ways this is really useful, and then a general approach I'm beginning to move towards as well. Self-touch as a part of somatic practice. So the fingers are mapped really with a larger representation on the sensory motor cortex, part of your brain that allows you to move and sense your movement. So working with the fingers in this way can be really, really important and helpful. And then the other way is, again, to try this movement. So for the next one, we'll start with the hands in what's commonly referred to as Atmanjali mudra, or the gesture of self-reverence. And then slide your palms down towards your navel. Separate the palms when you get down low enough. Extend the arms out to your sides. And then just sweep up and overhead. It's almost like doing Surya Namaskar. You can lift if you like and look up at your hands there. Do a mild back bend, nothing too aggressive. Slide down from the center. And when you get to the center of your sternum, now we'll try adding in arm cleansing movement. We've done this one before, so let your left hand come to the center of your chest and your right hand extend palm face up. So now we slide your left hand down your arm. And when you get palm to palm, keep your right palm face down, left palm face up. Bring your left palm on the back of your right knuckles and slide up until you get to your heart. And then again, the palms come together and we'll reach back up. Slide the arms back down. Bend at the elbows and bring your hands back together. And let's just do that movement one more time. So again, your right hand to your heart, slide down the inside of your left forearm until you get palm to palm. Bring your left palm on the back of your right hand, slide up the back of your right arm, and bring your hands together at the heart and reach up again. Slide down. Let's just do that one more time. Now we're going to reverse the flow this time in order to direct the flow the other direction. But before we do that, keep your hands right here, palm to palm, and notice how does your right arm, the outer right arm feel? And how does your inner left arm feel? Those are the primary guide wires we were working with. So you might notice a difference in your arms here just from that cutaneous stimulation, the skin touch. The inside of your left arm might feel a little warmer than the inside of your right forearm. The outside of your right arm might feel a little warmer or tingly than the outside of your left. Maybe, maybe not. Now, let's try the other direction, right? Which is the exact opposite arrangement that we did before, right? So begin by letting your left hand come on top of your chest and slide down the inside of your right arm. Turn your left palm up and your right palm down and slide up your left inner arm. Your hands come back together at the heart and then reach up, slide down, bend at the elbows. Now let's try it again. Right hand to the center of the chest, slide down. I'm sorry, left hand to the inside of the chest, slide down the inside of your right arm till you get palm to palm. And then again, reverse. So now your right hand is on top of your left and you're sliding up your left outer arm. I think I might have done that wrong the first time. We'll try it again. All right. Left hand to the center of the chest. Slide down from the inside of the right arm. Switch. Slide your right hand up the outside of your left arm. That's it. One final round. I believe the first time I tried teaching the sequence, I did the whole kit and caboodle right from the start, which might not have been the best way to learn it. So I've divided it into two halves here to make it a little easier to do. Let's just try 3 rounds of the whole practice, all 4 parts. The first round, I'll go really slow and describe the movement, but we're just linking everything we did together, right? So again, start by sliding down this time. Then reach up and overhead. As you pull down to the center of the heart, we're going to take the right hand to the center of the chest and slide it down the inside of your left arm. Then take your left hand and bring it across the outside of your right arm. Turn your right palm face up and slide down the inside of the right arm. Reverse the direction, slide your right hand up the outside of your left arm. Bring the hands back to the heart and reach up for the second round. If you get a little confused, as I did even in the beginning there, it's okay, right? The whole idea is to just begin to slowly figure out how you can activate your hands and your fingers and self-sense through your own touch. And like most of these kind of body-mind cross-current flows, the more you can turn your brain off a little bit, once you learn the sequence, turn your brain off and go with the flow. So let's just do one last round. I'll shut up. If you're having difficulty, you can still watch. Just remember, I'm doing the mirror opposite of you, chances are. And then just pause for a moment. Notice now how your hands feel, how your arms feel, how your shoulders feel. And when you're ready, take your time from there. We're going to move to a arch and curl pattern, and you could do this seated or reclining. So I'm going to leave the position that you choose totally up to you. We will be using our hands for a fair amount of the work though, so I can demo this part of the practice as well. So I'm doing it in a chair, but you could do it on a table, on the floor, whatever works for you. And to begin, bend your legs if you're in a reclining position, reclining supine position, so that your feet are flat, and allow your hands to rest right at the top of your hip hinge. So where the top of the thigh and the pelvis meet, that's it, right there. Fingers pointing towards your knees, generally speaking. And let's just notice how the skin of your hand feels against the skin or the fabric of whatever you're wearing for a moment. And most of the basic elements, the fundamental principles you've done with me for over, 2 years now, perhaps. So this is just adding to that self-touch as a practice. So when you arch your lower back, as we do for the arch and the curl, your tailbone feels as if it's rolling down into the floor, down into the table, and your lower back lifts away from the table. Gently press your elbows back to the floor, keeping your hands right where they are. And you'll notice that moves some of this contraction from the lower back to the mid back and maybe even into the upper back. And then relax to neutral. And try that twice more. Press the tailbone down, that'll cause your lower back muscles to contract. Press the elbows gently back. Release to neutral. Do one more time. And now let's try 3 sets of curling the back. So again, let your lower back roll flush to whatever you're resting against. It will feel as if your tailbone's lifting away from the floor. And as you're doing that, slide your hands along the top of your thighs down towards your knees. And then slowly relax back to neutral. Let your elbows bend. Let your chest muscles soften. Rinse and repeat about 2 more times. Curl your lower back into the floor. Slide your hands down your thighs towards your knees. And relax. So using the hands, using the arms, using your shoulder girdle in this way, actually supports a more global variation of this movement through the whole spine. So you'll feel the somatic center muscles, right, that we've talked about. And then as you add your arms and your shoulder girdle into it, you'll get more flexion or more extension, depending on which direction you're moving in this case, flexion, in the front body. See if you can feel that. And the next time your hands are sliding back towards the hip crease, then pause for a moment. Let's try lateralizing the movement just a little bit. So we're going to take it to one side, and we'll use your pelvis to do that. So imagine a central line here from the center of your sternum to the center of your navel to the bottom of your tailbone. And we're going to use your pelvis as a guide wire. So slide your pelvis over towards your right side. And if you slide your pelvis over towards your right side, should feel as if your tailbone moves towards your left heel a little bit. Stay in that slight side flexion. You'll feel the lower muscles of your obliques in particular contract more on one side than the other. In this case, more on your, for you would be your left side. And then in that position, arch your back. And with your back arched, press your elbow on the side that you're contracted towards into the floor. So that would be your left elbow. And then we'll do the arch and the curl as one movement. Slowly slide your left arm down your thigh. See if you can move your lower back into the floor. So we're curling here. and then slowly re-arch on that one side. Slide your hand down your thigh and let the elbow press back into the floor very gently. Do one more set. And then slowly come to neutral. So let your pelvis, the center of your somatic self, find equal distance so your tailbone aligns between your heels. And take 3 or 4 breaths here just to kind of notice the difference in the lower back and maybe even the lower obliques on the side that you've been working your left side, or maybe even the abdominals on that side as well. Now we can switch and move right to the other side. So same idea, imagine, for example, that your pelvis is a kite and the tailbone is the tail of your kite. So let the tail slide over toward your right side, which means your pelvis is going to tip leftward. When you get there, arch your back. You'll feel a little more pronounced contraction on your right side. Slide the right elbow farther back to give you that press into the floor. And then curl forward so your lower back draws down into the floor, and slide your right arm across your right thigh. Go at your own pace. 2, maybe 3 more times. And the next time you've completed both your arch position on the right and your curl position on the right, let go and be done with yourself. Let your pelvis slowly move back to neutral, back to center. Take a couple of breaths to sense how your lower back in particular is connecting to that movement. And we'll move on to an arch and curl with a single leg crunch variation. So these are all fairly basic movements, but adding in all of the elements of touch sensitivity makes it a little more interesting. So your legs are bent, and you can bring your right hand to the back of your head while your left hand comes to the back of your right knee. So we're going to start with your left hand first. So just relaxing your right shoulder, relax the weight of your head into your hand, and begin by, if you've got your right foot away from the floor, take your time, open your right knee a little bit away from gravity and slide your left hand up the back of your right thigh towards the back of your buttock. And then slide your left hand back towards the back of the knee. And as your leg comes in closer to you, slide your left hand down the back of your right calf. So you're just making contact. And then reverse. Slide your left hand back up. Bring your right foot all the way down to the floor. Take the strain out, take the effort out for a moment, and rinse and repeat. Pick your leg up. As you pick it up, you can open the knee a little bit, slide your hand towards the back of your buttock. Feel the texture of your skin, feel yourself touch, and then slide your left hand back down your calf. So in order to slide your hand down your calf, you almost have to bring your leg a little bit closer to chest and belly. It's a sneaky way of getting a contraction into your abdominals. And release again. Foot to the floor when you're ready. Let's do one more set that way, and then we'll add in the final piece, which is a lot easier because it's more familiar, which is the upper torso moving towards the lower torso. So when you pick your leg up to come into the crunch, so to speak, when your leg moves in closer here, draw your right elbow up and bring your right elbow and your right knee a little bit closer. They do not have to touch, right? They don't have to touch. If they do, that's fine, but they don't have to. Then release your upper torso, bring your foot all the way down to the floor. Complete release of the contractions, with the exception of maybe your left hand on the back of the right knee. Let's do one more just like that. Inhale, the leg lifts up, slide your hand down the back of your thigh, and then down the back of your calf. As your hand comes down your calf, your leg comes in, your elbow comes towards the right knee, and release at both ends. Because that's a lot to do and a lot to language. Let's try it one last time and then we'll rest. So one more time, inhale to exhale. On your exhale, the leg comes up first. Slide your hand first down the back of your thigh towards your buttock, and then down the opposite direction towards your calf. Lift your upper torso. Bring your leg and your elbow closer, and then release. Once your foot is on the floor, relax your hands all the way down to your sides. Slide your legs away from you. We're going to take a full pause here. So in your mind's eye, get a picture of how the back of your left thigh and calf feel. If that were a landscape, what would that feel like as a landscape? What color, what textures are showing up? And then move across to the back of your right thigh and calf. And notice what's showing up there. Would you please rebend both of your legs at the knees? We're going to start to the other side. So now your left hand comes to the back of your head, and your right hand comes behind the back of your left knee. And we start with the leg first because, well, your leg is heavy, right? There's a lot more to the leg than there is to the arm. So just to the best of your ability, let your arm and your head really be heavy on the floor there in the supine position. And then Open your left leg a little bit so that you've got some room to slide your right hand down the back of your left thigh towards your buttock. Reverse directions. As you draw your leg closer to you, let your right hand slide down the back of your calf. So you bring your leg in a little bit. That'll give you a little bit of an abdominal exercise. And slide your hand down. That'll add some abdominal work as well, and some oblique work. And then when your hand is back towards the crevice of the knee, slowly let your foot come down to the floor. A complete little mini pause before we start the next cycle, which you can start at your own pace. Picking your foot up, opening the knee a little bit to slide your hand. Bringing the leg closer to you, bends the knee more often than not. Slide your hand down towards your heel. Reverse to support the leg as you lower the foot down to the floor. Last one without the upper torso as you're ready. Now on your next cycle, when you're ready, we'll add in the upper torso contraction. So everything else is the same. You pick your leg up first, slide the hand down the back of your thigh, open the knee slightly, close the knee slightly to slide your hand down the back of the calf, and then move your elbow in and down. And then release both the leg and the upper torso as close to synchronously as you can. Let's do 2 more if the body's willing. With no rush from me, when you get to your last round on this side, release your foot, release your arm, and again, slide your legs long and rest. Self-sensing here. Maybe this time instead of a landscape, we might try noticing, is there a color difference between the back of one leg compared to the other? Or maybe they're both feeling the same or similar shade of the same color now that we've done both sides. All right, let's move on from there. So we'll be still working with a little bit of lateral work, but now from the upper torso. So to begin with, draw your arms behind the back of your head, and you can keep your legs straight for this. Let your elbows rest comfortably into the floor to the best of your ability. So let's just get really comfortable. We engage the abdominals and the obliques a little bit earlier, and now we're going to engage these areas a little bit more. So inhale to exhale, and on your next exhalation, think of letting your shoulders, your head, and your arms ever so slightly lift away from your base of support. So you lift up just a little bit. Doesn't have to be very high, maybe a millimeter, right? Away from the floor, and then slowly release. Try that 2 or maybe 3 more times. And now we can begin to lateralize it. So we're only going to go to one side. So I'm going to let you choose which side you go to first, left or right. And I'll describe the movement first, and then you can start. You'll lift your head, lift your shoulder blades slightly off the floor the way you've been going, and then slightly lean over to one side, right? It's like half moon posture in yoga. And then come all the way to the floor to that one side. Rest down in that slight side bend. Inhale to exhale to lift slightly up, and then come completely back to center out of the side bend. Try the same side about 3 to 4 times. Now on your next side bending movement, let's just stay here this time. So you can feel one side of your ribs slightly more contracted than the other, whichever side you're working with. The contracted side of the ribs is the side we want to focus on touching, right? But to get there, we're going to go in stages. It's like my regular little elevator practice, right? So we'll start very sneakily. Let the opposite side hand, right? So if it's your right ribs that you've contracted, it would be your left hand. Alternately, if it were the left side of the ribs that you contracted, it would be your right. Whichever side ribs you've contracted, it's the opposite hand. And you're going to bring that hand to the top of your head and make some small circles with the palm of your hand on the top of your head. They don't have to be very big, but use your whole hand, your whole arm to circle around the top of your head. Imagine what you're doing here is whipping up a comet, like one that flies across the sky, right, at night. And so now that you've whipped this comet up at the top of the head, slide the circle down the forearm on the shortened side, towards the elbow if you can, towards the elbow if you can. If you can't, that's fine. And then slide back towards the top of your head and circle there. One circle and then slide back down your forearm. The forearm becomes a guide wire for your other arm to trace down, and then slide back to the top of the head. Circle the top of the head, slide down the guide wire of your forearm towards the elbow if you can, and then back to the top of the head from the forearm. Now, this only works if you're really comfortable. So if you're not comfortable, if this is your limit for today, that's perfectly acceptable. But if you can, the next time you slide down towards your elbow on the shortened side, then slide from the elbow down towards your armpit on that shortened side. Slide from the armpit back up towards your elbow. And try that 3 more times. Notice the texture of your skin, the warmth of your hand on your skin. It's all information. And if you're having no difficulty in your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist, getting your hand to your armpit, maybe you could slide from your armpit down the sides of your ribs towards your hip on the shortened side. When you get down towards maybe the hip, reverse direction and come back towards the armpit. And try that little trick 3 more times. One of the things about this kind of approach to somatics that I really enjoy, it's kind of like what you would do taking a bath or in the shower with a bar of soap. So if it's at all helpful, just imagine you're soaping your armpit, soaping the side of your torso, except you're using the energy of your hand to get energetically clean. Now, wherever you are at this point in the practice, let's see if we can connect head to the side of the torso. So reverse all of those steps that got you there and bring your hand back to the top of your head. Let's see if we can do all of that as one complete practice. So make a circle around the top of your head 2 or 3 times. And then shoot the comet of your long side arm and hand over the guide wire of your short forearm to the elbow, down the back of your upper arm to the armpit, from the armpit down the shortened ribs towards your hip, and then come all the way back up. And let's do that twice more for completion, if the body is willing. Wherever you are when you complete, and your hand is next coming back up and to the top of your head, bring your arm behind your head for additional support. So you're still slightly side bent here. So inhale to exhale, This time, on your next inhalation, slightly lift the upper torso the way you did earlier, away from the floor, and then exhale back to center. Release your arms once you're centered, down to the sides of your torso. And we're going to take a very nice, luxurious rest here and notice how the one side that you were working with, your held short side, how does that side compare now to the side we held long? Just breathe. I'll know when you're ready to continue, because at that point, you can slide your arms up and bring them behind the back of your head again, and let your arms and shoulders just rest for a minute more there once you're in position. In our working position, notice how the arm that you were working with earlier, the short side arm, how does the muscle feel on that side? Your tricep and bicep, the muscles of your upper arm, how do they feel compared to the side we held long, the side that was sliding down? Is there a difference in the contraction, the base contraction, or in other words, the tone of the muscles in your upper arms? Chances are there is. We've toned the shortened side muscle. So, what's the old expression? Turnabout is fair play. Let's make sure we at least give an opportunity for the side we held long to get short, to get toned, to get contracted. So we'll start the same way. To begin with, lift your upper torso slightly off the floor, doesn't have to be very high, and then slide to the other side. And then release back to the floor. Lift slightly in the side bent position away from the floor. Come back to neutral, and then release in neutral. And just let yourself go through that to contract and release. And I guess one of the important things to notice here is as you shorten your torso to the second side, there's still a little bit of a contraction that's left residually when you rest in the side flexed position, the lateral bend there. The torso on that side stays slightly contracted until you, of course, come out of the side flexion, the side bend, and release to neutral. Now, the next one we'll call completion, but we're going to stay in the side bend. And here again, we'll use the long side hand and arm to circle around the top of your head several times to just get the feeling for it. So your hand is circling, your forearm is moving, your upper arm is moving inside the shoulder joint. And it's like you're circling or stirring soup in a pot. And then we're going to take that soup and just ladle it down the length of your shortened side forearm towards the elbow. And then come back from the forearm to the top of the head, circle again, and slide down. Maybe you get the elbow and maybe you don't, right? Maybe the side is quite a bit different. There's more adhesions or difficulty with the shoulder joint. So don't be shy about respecting your own limitations. You could always take these movements and break them down even smaller than the whole trajectory that I've kind of outlined on the other side, right? If you needed less, you could do less until you can do more comfortably. But if there's room comfortably to go further, the next time you make the circle around the top of the head and glide down to your elbow, see if you can now glide down past your elbow, the back of your tricep to the armpit. And then from the armpit back to the elbow. And try that about 3 more times. Sense how your touch can warm you up. And the next time your hand is making the journey towards the armpit, maybe there's room for more. Maybe you could slide down from your armpit, down the ribs, towards your hip. And then from the hip back up towards the armpit. And try that little leg of the journey 2 or 3 more times. Notice if you can feel the contraction in between the ribs of the muscles there, right? These are your obliques in part. You might also be getting your lats around the back. And if your hand is a little bit closer to the front of the ribs, you might even feel your serratus muscles in between the front of the rib bodies. But whatever you don't need to know the names necessarily to feel the effect of that slight side bend holding you in contraction. Now, full journey if possible and practical, right? So you could visualize it. Remember, that's always an option, or you could just slide your hand from the hip to the armpit to the elbow across the forearm to the top of the head. Make your little swoosh, or maybe it's the famous emblem of a shoemaker. I won't name it. They might sue me. And then back down. Slide all the way to the best of your ability, as smoothly as you can. When you get to the top of the head, make a circle or a swoosh and slide your comet soup ladle, arm, hand, all the way back down. And please take one more full journey, if possible, at your own pace. When your hand comes to the back of your head, then from there, we'll come out of the side bend at your own rhythm. We reverse the flow of the breath here just a little bit. So inhale in order to lift slightly away from the floor. Exhale to move back to neutral. And then release. Back of the shoulders, back of the head. Slide your arms down to your sides. Please rest. Rest yourself. Do the two halves of your rib cage feel a little more, maybe not symmetrical, but at least even energetically compared to what you remember about this journey when you were at the halfway point? Now, from right where you are, notice if your palms are face up or face down. And if your palms are face down, turn your palms so that they're closer to face up and slide your arms out a ways, maybe 45-degree angles to the sides of your torso. So not all the way out to a T, just a little bit wider. And we're going to go back to the individual digit work we did when we first started this session, with a slight movement for the arms here. So visualize your fingers and take the pinky finger, the first digit, fold it in like you did earlier towards the center of the palm as best you can. Hold it there. And now roll your arms so that the palms roll flat. And then if you can, comfortably slide your hands in the rest of the way so that your hands are kind of hugging you. The back of your knuckles are close to the outseams of your thighs. Your shoulders close off in the front, and the back of your shoulders round, and they may even lift off the floor. And then release the pinky finger and slowly let your arms roll back out. Come back out, slide slightly towards that 45-degree angle again. This time your ring fingers curl in towards the center of the palm as best you can. Roll your arms in from the shoulders. Slide your arms across the floor towards your torso. Let your shoulders round and lift off the back of the floor just a little bit. Hold for a brief moment. As you release your ring fingers, slowly roll your arms back out. Slide them away from you, 45-degree angle maybe. Take your middle finger, first digit, fold it in. Roll your arms in. Slide your arms in. Shoulders peel away from the floor. Hold for a brief moment. Release the fingers. Release the arms. Slide to the sides. Index finger, pointer finger folds in, roll in. Slide in. Hold the contraction. Release the finger to release the contraction through your arms, through your shoulders. Slide out through the arms. Last digit, the thumb comes into the center. Wrap the other 4 fingers around your thumb. Roll your arms at the shoulders internally. Let the back of your knuckles sweep in again. Shoulders come away from the floor. Hold. 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 And release. Palms of the hands. Roll the arms out. Slide the shoulders back to the floor. This time, press them into the floor. And then relax. From your fingers to the center of the palms, across your forearms and elbows. Let your biceps in the inside of the upper arms and triceps on the back of the upper arms soften. And as you breathe in, sense how your chest muscles and the upper back muscles respond to the flow of your breath. Take the next few moments to gather your senses. You might consider starting with what the author Ashley Montague talks about in his well-known book on touch as the mother of all of the other senses. So if you start from your sense of felt touch, notice how you touch the floor, how your touch feels with the fabric of your clothing. And bring yourself back from there through any of the other senses you would like to invite back to full awareness. Smell, taste, hearing, or sight. And when you feel completely ready with no rush, you might roll to a side in order to make the remaining journey back to a more normal state of awareness.